Hey, Bruchim Habayim, guys. Thanks for joining us tonight. We are sponsored tonight by Mr. Koramian. May he live and be well. Hashem learning for Le'inui Lishmat Menashe ben Yaakov. May his neshama go higher and higher in Gan Eden. Zad Hashem. Baruch Hu should help him to be Melitz Yosher for all of us, God willing. Okay, so Melitz Yosher, that he should pray. Right, for us, and you should say zechut for us. Okay, exactly. So we begin Parashat Chaye Sarah with the passing of Sarah Imenu. As you know, the Yetzer Hara did not want for the Akedah to take place. At the end of last week's Parasha, we had Akedat Yitzchak. Then we had the idea that this binding of Yitzchak Avinu was going to be what lasts for the Jewish people for thousands of years at our side to save us. So the Yetzer Hara did everything possible to make sure that Akedat Yitzchak would not happen. And the one piece that of the puzzle that it actually managed to do was to bring about, unfortunately, the death of Sarah Imenu. First of all, he made a huge river, it says. That's why, by the way, we go on Rosh Hashanah to do tashlich by a body of water. One of the reasons that we do that is zecher for the fact that the Yetzer Hara tried to stop Yitzchak Avinu and Avraham Avinu from doing the Akedah. So he made a huge body of water until Avraham Avinu had to walk all the way through and say, Hashem, you want me to do this or not? And then Hashem had to get rid of the Yetzer Hara so that he could go and do it. And eventually, they actually did it. But the point was that the one thing that he managed to do at the end of the day was to cause about the death of Sarah Imenu because of the fact that she was terrified from what she heard, and she simply passed away. Now, there are some who say that the Akedah was the 10th of the Nisyonot of Avraham Avinu. We know that it says in Pirkei Avot, Asara Nisyonot Nitnasa Avraham Avinu, 10 trials Avraham was tested, and many Mefarshim say the 10th one was Akedat Yitzchak. However, I believe it was Rabbeinu Yonah, and there are some others who were of the opinion that no, that was number 9. There was another one that was the 10th one, and that was this one, which is the beginning of this week's parasha, which is burying Sarah Imenu. So you ask yourself, well, what do you mean, burying Sarah Imenu? How is that a nisayon? So it's a very interesting thing. I heard a nice idea from Rabbi Yisachar Friend. He says that burying Sarah Imenu was a big nisayon because you know how sometimes a person has had enough. You know, you've went through so much, you've gone through so much, and after your whole big ordeal, now you have to deal with this. And what I'm referring to over here is this gentleman by the name of Ephron. This individual by the name of Ephron plays it up like he's your friend. He wants to do good for you. He wants to give you everything. Meanwhile, he's trying to stick it to you, you know? So here you are, that you went through so much. You went through an entire Akedah. You went through the Yetzer Hara trying to stop you. You did so much. You accomplished so much, and you just lost your wife, and you were living with her for so long, and you had miracles happening with her. She's so precious to you, so beloved to you, and now you have to deal with this guy, you know, this just pathetic human being, and he's the gentleman who's standing in between you and burying your beloved wife. You know, you reach a point where you lose it. I can't deal with this guy anymore. How much can you take her? Says Rabbeinu Yonah, this was Nisayon number 10. This was the 10th Nisayon of Avraham Avinu. How's he going to conduct himself in the face of a, kind of cheap, not honest, crook type personality? The person that's trying to sell you something that's worth, $100 for 10,000, that type of thing. How do you deal with this guy now? Do you lose it? Do you blow up at him? Do you say, well, get out of here? I'm going to eventually own this whole place anyway. Do you show arrogance? How do you conduct yourself? So Abraham's last test was actually this moment of how he dealt with Ephron. And what we see is that in spite of everything that he just went through, he still conducted himself with the highest form of respect, with patience, and he played his cards right to the point where he actually procured Me'arat HaMachpelah for himself and for his all future generations, which is really an amazing thing. Now, the big question that I had mentioned on Sunday morning was, how could he buy Me'arat HaMachpelah with 400 shekel kesef if it was worth so much more than that? Right? That was the big question. We know the rule is that you cannot cheat somebody when it comes to a purchase. If you know that something is worth $1 million and you buy it for 50, right? So then that would be called mekach ta'ut in halacha. You can't do that. Halacha says that if the person comes back and he says, listen, I'm taking you to court, you had no right to buy that for $50 when it was worth $1 million, and you knew it was worth $1 million, so the sale goes back, right? That's the halacha in Shulchan Aruch. So over here, this is very much that situation. So the Zohar brings down, Ephron miyamav lo ra'a b'me'ara zulat ha'choshech ve'abe'ala. Ephron didn't know what was in this place. He saw darkness, he saw confusion, he saw random stuff. Why would anybody take interest in this? So he said, okay, you want to buy it? Okay, I'll sell it to you. He didn't realize that there was anything special. So Avraham Avinu, so I kind of told you the answer that the Or HaChaim HaKadosh says, but I didn't say it exactly right, so I want to correct myself. The Or HaChaim HaKadosh says, technically there is an answer to this question that would be a good answer, and that would be the end of it. And the answer is, En ona'ah lekarkaot, which means that when it comes to real estate, this rule does not apply. When it comes to real estate, I'm allowed to go ahead and sell it and buy it from you, even though it's worth much more, I can buy it for cheaper. And vice versa, I could sell it for much more than it's worth also. Why? Because by real estate, this rule does not apply. However, there's a machloket if that is true when it comes to double the amount. There is a machloket amongst the poskim. If I want to sell you a property that's worth, let's say, $100,000 for $300,000, and we both, and I know that it's more than double the value, right? And I'm selling it to you. Am I allowed to do that or not, right? So that is a machloket amongst the Rishonim. Says the Or HaChaim HaKadosh, Avraham Avinu was concerned, maybe the halacha follows the opinions that say that you're not allowed to do that. So over here, says the Or HaChaim HaKadosh, he added another element, which is that he used the kinyan called kinyan chalipin. Kinyan chalipin is what we do by a wedding. When you have the rabbi that tells the chatan, okay, lift this up, and now he makes himself mishuabad to the ketubah that he's obligating himself to pay whatever number is there. Chalipin, when you make a transaction using the method called chalipin, so then even if it's by far more than the value, there is no going back. It takes effect right away, and there's no turning back. So Avraham Avinu says the Or HaChaim HaKadosh used two methods of kinyan. He actually paid for it, and he also did a chalipin with it. That's what the Or HaChaim HaKadosh answers. I'll read it to you inside. It's just important. I wanted to get the details properly so that I didn't make a mistake over here. The chalipin is that you lift up something. I give you something, and in exchange, you give me something back. Let's say I want to trade my donkey for your ox. So the minute that you get my donkey, automatically I own your ox wherever it is. It's an exchange on the spot. So I give you a handkerchief, you lift it up, you own my handkerchief now, and I take possession of your house or your whatever. It just takes effect on the spot. And we both know that it takes effect right away and there's no turning back. So it doesn't make a difference. No, it's not so. In halacha, that's not so. When you give money, you don't get the land right away. You have to do something that shows ownership. For example, you lock the door, you put up a fence, you live there. You have to do some kind of action that shows possession. But chalipin does not require that. When I give you something in exchange with this type of transaction, automatically it takes effect, and we both know there's no turning back. So Avraham Avinu used the two methods, payment plus chalipin, and that's how he got out of the problem of mekach ta'ut. That was the very interesting piece from the Orach Chaim HaKadosh that he did over here. Bechavot, sure.
The value of the cave was different for the seller and the buyer.
Right.
The seller had a certain value for him. It didn't have the same value, but the buyer had a higher value.
Right.
So
for a lot of people, it's like that. No, but let's say, for example, a Picasso painting. If you don't like art and it doesn't mean anything to you, so then for me, it doesn't mean much. But Picasso paintings sell for a lot of money. So we know that there are people that care about Picasso paintings and that there is a market for them. What is the market value for that? That's what it is. So here, if you would have known that this is in the market for the Jewish nation or whoever it is that cares about it, something special, it has a value.
Depends who does the appraisal.
Okay, that's the idea. All right.
You had 10 tests.
Yes.
So there's like 2 different
versions of what are the 10 tests, correct.
So then would it be that you have more than 10 tests?
So this is a different counting. This is Rabbeinu Yonah's count. He holds that Akedah was number 9, and this was actually number 10.
One of them is saying the other one isn't a test.
Correct. Yes. One of them is not. I don't know which one he knocks off of the other list.
So wouldn't it be that more than 10 tests? If you combine them?
If you would combine them, then you would end up with more.
Does anybody, or any of the rabbis?
No, because the Mishnah says it's specifically 10. So the question is, which one are the 10? So that's how they get 2 different lists. Correct. Okay, beautiful. So Avraham gets this plot of land. He buries Sarah Imenu, and now the pasuk continues after Sarah is buried. Avraham zaken ba bayamim. V'Adonai berach et Avraham bakol. A lot of things to say about this pasuk over here. Avraham is old. Avraham zaken ba bayamim. Now, how does a person acquire zikna? How does a person get long life? So over here, the Midrash tells us very clearly that a person gets long life by being involved in chesed and tzedakah. The Midrash says clearly that there was a city. Rabbi Meir was once traveling through a city, and he saw that in this city, it was called Mamla. Midrash tells us on this pasuk, there was a city called Mamla. Rabbi Meir Balanes was traveling through the city, and he sees that there's not one old man in the city, not a single person in this entire city that's old. Everybody's young. So he realized must be they die young over here. Very, very strange thing. So he says, wait a minute. Are you the descendants of Eli, the prophet? And they say, yes, we are. Please bless us. What's the story? Eli was the Kohen Gadol in the time of Hannah, right? He was one of the Shoftim. And Eli had 2 sons, Chofni and Pinchas. Chofni and Pinchas were serving Hashem in the Beit HaMikdash, but they did something that was wrong. Primarily, they had 2 main things that they were messing up with. What they did wrong was that they had caused women who were coming to bring offerings to the temple, which normally they come because of the fact that they had a baby. And when you have a baby, you have to bring birds as an offering. When you bring birds are smaller. They don't have that much meat, right? So the Kohanim, the sons of Eli, they weren't getting much out of these bird offerings. The other people were bringing chatat, asham, big animals. So they would come with forks that had three big prongs on it. So you take a big piece of meat. They wanted those offerings. So all the ladies that had babies, they would be on the back of the line. So it says in the Navi something very scary. It says that they had relations with married women. So the Gemara says they didn't have relations with married women, but because of the fact that they delayed the women from going home to their husbands, they had to wait on the back of the line for them to bring the korban. It's as if they were keeping them longer. It's like on their level, it's like having relations with married women. Very bad. Okay, fine. So they were abusing the system because they wanted to take more of the food that they liked. Okay, fine. So it says Hashem sent a curse upon them. And Hashem said to Eli that all the future generations that come from Chofni and Pinchas are all going to die young. They're not going to live a long life. Very severe, very scary punishment that they had. So here's the situation. Rabbi Meir Balanes is in this town, Mamla, and then, not Mamila, right? Mamla, right? He's in this place, and everybody there dies young. They said, give us a bracha, Rabbi Meir Balanes. You can bless us. So he said to them, Taplu b'tzedakah. Taplu b'tzedakah. Those are his words. Not just give tzedakah, but deal with tzedakah. Be involved in tzedakah. Give it in a way that you're not just giving money, but you're actually involved in it. You're involved with your body, with chesed. You're going, you're doing, you're coming. You're involved with yourself. You put yourself into the tzedakah. He says, if that's how you do it, you'll be blessed with a long life. He says, how do I know this? Because it says, V'Avraham zaken. How do we know that Avraham, why did Avraham reach a long life? Because all he did was chesed. He was involved with chesed from morning till night. So the chesed that he did gave him a long life, says the Midrash. It says that they listened to him, and that was able to push off the curse of Chofni and Pinchas, the sons of Eli. The next two words are no less significant. V'Avraham zaken ba bayamim. What does that mean? He came with his days. Ba bayamim. He was older in days. V'Avraham zaken ba bayamim. It's an expression to say that he's already up there in his old age. Correct? Right? But literally the words ba bayamim means they mean that he came with his days. Ba, he comes bayamim, with days. Says the Zohar Kadosh, an amazing thing. When a tzaddik dies, so then what happens is that if you could, let's say, take a person and then break down his days, the days of his life, into individual files. Each day is a different day, a different file of his life. The tzaddik goes to Shamayim and he shows the Shamayim, he shows the Bedin Shilmala each and every single day of his life. And he shows how in every single day he was involved in Torah, he was involved in mitzvot, he was involved in different things. So Ba, when he comes to Shamayim, he's Ba Be'amim. He's coming with his days. He goes up to Shamayim and he shows the Shamayim, look, these are my days. I was involved every day with chesed, with tzedakah, with... And the Chavetz Chaim says you should never go even one day without doing a chesed for somebody. Something. You should do some kind of chesed, even if it's, could be even something small, but one chesed a day. Just like you have to learn Torah every day, you have to do one chesed a day. Chavetz Chaim writes that. So, person shows that Kadosh Baruch Hu after 120, look, each and every day, he's coming with his days. Person that's a Rasha dies, though, however, he's hiding his days. He doesn't want to show Hashem what he did in all of his days because he's got baggage. He's got things that he wants to hide. He doesn't want to show. So that's a problem. So that's the idea. Avraham Zaken, Baba, he comes with his days. Very important. Okay. Now, Vashem berachet Avraham bakol. And Hashem blessed Avraham with everything. Bakol. Now, say the Mefarshim, bakol is the same gematria as ben. Because bet is 2, chaf is 20, lamed is 30, that's 52. That's ben, 52. So now that Hashem blessed Abraham with a son, Baruch Hashem, he has everything. He's got his continuity. The Jewish people lives on. He didn't have to slaughter him, and it's all good. Others say that this actually is a reference to a daughter that Abraham had, and her name was Bakol. You guys hear about this famous pshat? No? Never heard this pshat? The Ramban brings this pshat down. The pshat that the Ramban says that Avram had a daughter, actually it's quoting a Gemara, Avram had a daughter, her name was Bakol. Now, what's the story with this daughter? So the Ramban is saying over here, that's where it says, Hashem berachat Avraham Bakol. Hashem blessed Avraham with a daughter named Bakol. That's the way the Ramban learns. Now, what's the story with this girl? So there's a very interesting discussion that the Mekubalim have about Yitzchak Avinu. Yitzchak Avinu says was about to get slaughtered. The Mefarshim say that he had a neshama of a female. He had a neshama of a female. Exactly. That neshama of the female had to leave him, because for a male to have a neshama of a female is very bad. It means, God forbid, he's not going to live a long life. It's not good for that person. So the neshama has to leave. What happened is that the neshama, when the Akedah was about to happen, it says, he took the sword, the knife to slaughter his son. So Yitzchak was so scared that the neshama that was inside of him left him, and then went somewhere else to be his daughter, and that was a girl that was born, and her name was Bakol. At that point, Yitzchak got the neshama of a male. Okay? And then he was able to continue living his life until then for Yosef, a long life. What? Yes.
In the middle of his life?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're saying. That's what the...
What?
That's what we're saying now, yeah. That's what it says.
In the middle of somebody's life, the neshama can change?
First of all, you realize you get another neshama every Shabbat. Right?
Somebody else's neshama?
A neshama. You're added another neshama every Shabbat, right? We don't feel it, but it does. Yeah. Again?
If somebody is not see, they change his name.
Yes.
That's the one.
You can get it.
The idea of changing the name is to say that guy was sick, but this guy, it's not the same person. He has a new name. He's not the same person. The other guy, his mazal, he was sick. Not this guy. This guy is not whoever it is. It's somebody else.
What's the reason you say this after Halas?
Oh, very nice. So Isaac is asking beautifully. He's saying we say this pasuk, V'Avraham Zaken Ba Bayamim, V'Hashem Berachet Avraham Akol. This pasuk, if you notice at the end of Hallel, it's brought down that if you say this pasuk, it's a segula for a lot of wonderful blessings. All the blessings that you would need for the entire month are in this line. The Avraham Zaken Ba Bayamim, and then afterwards you have to think in mind the name that it says there, and think in mind that name, and that name Yishmereni, right? It should protect me and should, yes, that name Zayin Bet Daled Yud Hey, right? Yishmereni V'Chayeni, etc. And that gives you beracha for the entire year. Yeah, for the entire month, I meant to say, yeah.
What happens to the neshama on Shabbat?
Yes.
So you get a new neshama every Shabbat? Or
Yes.
Neshama that goes and comes back?
You know what? I don't know. Correct. That's why we say Brei Minei Samim after Shabbat, because the neshama that left us, we're sad that we lost the neshama that was a part of our body, and therefore we have to make our neshama happy. So we smell, and smell is the only physical pleasure that a neshama enjoys, because it says that when Adam and Chava did the sin, so then every part of their senses was involved in the sin. It looked good, it tasted good, it felt good, but the only part of their body they didn't use was the smell, the nose. So therefore, that's the only part that the neshama still enjoys when you smell something good. That's why it says Shabbat Vayinafash. Says the Gemara, Vayinafash stands for Vay Avda Nefash, which means, oh no, we lost the soul. We lost the soul after Shabbat, it left us. So we have to make it happy by having the Besamim. That's why, by the way, whenever it's not Shabbat, after Yom Tov, you don't do Besamim. There's never Besamim after a Yom Tov. It's only when it's after Shabbat. And also not fire, correct. So that's also only after Shabbat and only after Yom Kippur. That's it, never any other time. Okay, so very good. So Vashem berachet Avraham bakol, Hashem blessed Avraham with everything. And again, Rabotai, this is also a state of mind that a person always has to feel that he has everything. Hashem gives us everything that we need. We're never lacking. Baruch Hashem, we always have everything we need. Just like Yaakov Avinu told Esav, Yesh li kol, I have everything, right? That's why we say in Birkat Hamazon, Bakol, Mikol, Kol, because each one of our avot, we had Avraham Avinu that had Bakol, right? We had also Yitzchak, Mikol, he gave 10% of everything, and Yaakov said, Yesh li kol, I have everything. That's the attitude of Am Yisrael, that we never feel that we're lacking anything. We never feel the need to keep up with the Joneses, right? We always we have whatever we need, and Baruch Hashem, we're always good. Baruch Hashem, we don't have to compete with anybody. Baruch Hu gave us everything that we need. That's the midah of Avraham Avinu. Okay, gentlemen, I would like to focus on something that's a little bit of a chidush later on in the parasha. I think you're going to very much enjoy this. Okay, so we know that Avraham Avinu sent his slave to go and to find a shidduch for Yitzchak. Now, the whole thing is really amazing. Chazal famously say that Yafeh sichatan shel avdei avot yoter mitoratan shel banim, which means that there are certain halachot in the Torah that are learned from an extra letter or a missing letter. It doesn't even bother to tell you what the halacha is in words. It's just like adding a letter. For example, how many walls does a sukkah need to have? 2.5 or 3, right? Minimum, right? Fine. How do we know that? Right. So it's instead of saying, hey, it's Sukkot is written Samech Vav Chaf Taf without a Vav at the end, right? Samech Vav Chaf Taf Sukkot. It's missing a Vav at the end. In 2 places, it's missing a Vav. One place it has a Vav. From the added Vav or the missing Vav, the Gemara has to learn that, oh, that's because it's telling you that these are the amount of walls that are needed for the Sukkah, right? So the thing is, you're teaching me halachot from a missing letter or an added letter. It's like, it's very concise. Over here in this parasha, the Torah repeats a total of 3 times the whole story of what Eliezer was going to do in order to get Rivka. In other words, what was his plan? What actually happened? And then when he meets Lavan and Betuel, he tells them exactly what happened. So it's 3 times the whole story. What? Water for the camels, right? Exactly. The whole story repeats it 3 times. So it's amazing. Here you have halachot, huge, important halachot in the Torah. You learn from 1 extra letter, 1 missing letter. But this story repeats up 3 times. That means that there's a lot that you need to learn from these stories. A lot. Now, just to give you, I'm going to focus on just one part. Again, there's a lot that you could say. So first of all, he finally sees Rivka. She's coming out with water, and she's got a jug. She's going to draw water. The young lady was very beautiful. Betula, she was a virgin. Ve'ish lo yeda'a, nobody knew her. Vatered ha'aina, she went down to the water. Vatemalek hadash, she filled up the water. Vatal, and she left. Now, Rashi tells us some very interesting things here. First of all, the word over here that is used to describe Rivka is veha na'ara. Na'ara means a young lady. Okay? Oh, very good. Here's the big problem. Rashi, I'm going to explain. Rashi tells us actually in next week's parasha, a calculation to understand how old was Rivka. Let's do the math together. I'll share with you what Rashi says. We'll start like this. How old was Sarah Imenu when Yitzchak was born? 90. Kol hakavod. She was 90. How old was Sarah Imenu when she died in the beginning of this week's parasha? 127. Okay. When did she die? Right after Akedat Yitzchak. So she hears about Akedat Yitzchak, and then she died. So that means Yitzchak Avinu was how old? 37. Very good. Excellent. So he was 37. His mother passed away. Clear? Right? 100%? Okay. The pasuk in next week's parasha says, "V'Yitzchak ben 40 shana bekachto et Rivka," which means that Yitzchak was 40 when he married Rivka. Now, It says right after the Akedah, Avraham Avinu hears Mazel Tov to his brother. He had a granddaughter named Rivka. When did this happen? Right after the Akedah. So if Yitzchak Avinu married Rivka when he was 40, and she was born right after the Akedah, and she was, right, and that he was 37 at the Akedah, that means that she was 3 when she got married to Yitzchak. Yes or no?
Yeah.
What?
Does the Torah have an order like that? I thought there is no order.
It's just putting the facts together, right? That's what Rashi says in next week's parasha. What? What?
How do you know the Mazel Tov was for that daughter?
It says that Avraham hears right after the Akedah. That's when we find out about Rivka. Right after the Akedah, it says that Avraham finds out his brother Nahor had a son, Betuel, and he hears that Betuel just had a daughter, Rivka. Right?
So there's an order.
That's what it's. That's what it says. It sounds you have a good point. You're asking who's to say that it doesn't say just had a daughter. It says he had a daughter. Maybe it happened at a different time. Valid. And I'll tell you why it's valid. But the first opinion that Rashi brings down, which is Rashi himself, explaining the Seder Olam, which is the opinion he's quoting, Rashi holds that it just happened. That means that at the time that Akedat Yitzchak took place, that's when Rivka was born. That means that if he was 40 when he married her, it was 3 years later, she was 3. That's how Rashi learns. Now, if you look in Masechet Yevamot in Tosfot Daf Samech Aleph Amud Bet, Tosfot brings down that there was another rabbi that was a little bit after Rashi, who brought various proofs claiming that she was actually 14. She was 14 at the time that they got married. Okay, so we have a machloket. Tosfot says it must be there are different midrashim that are arguing on one another because his proofs are good and his proofs are good. So it must be a difference of opinion in the midrashim.
What's the other proofs?
The other proofs are not so clear over there. I'm going to have to go through it with you, and we have to work it out because I had a hard time figuring out what he was saying. So it's over there. It's Samech Aleph. Yeah, no, it can work it out. I didn't know exactly what he meant. Samech Aleph Amud Bet. What do you mean at 3? So the question is like this. So obviously.
Did it ever happen again in history?
Look, there's no question that a girl at 3 years old is capable of becoming pregnant. There's no question about it. A girl at 3 cannot become pregnant, obviously, right?
So what about
the
water from the wells to the camels?
Yes, that's a whole big to do as well. Think about that. She's coming out to get water from the well. She's 3 years old. I remember at the time I had a 3-year-old daughter when I was thinking about this. I said, what would my 3-year-old look like? Going to get water from the wells, having a conversation with this random stranger. It's a very, very interesting scene to think about. Must be that they were a little bit different, especially if Kaimenu. But anyway, that is Rashi's opinion. Like we said, Tosfot argues she was 14 in their opinion. Okay, fine. That's the story. Now, yes.
Was there another 3-year-old in the Torah that got married? A woman that was 3-year-old?
That I can't tell you. I don't know of any other 3-year-old. I don't know of any other 3-year-old that got married. It's a good question. I don't know. Okay, now, this is the very interesting discussion. I've always been bothered by a couple of questions here. I think you're going to find this very interesting. So, she agrees to go home with Eliezer. The parents tried to kill Eliezer unsuccessfully. They tried to poison his food, didn't work out. Okay. She goes home with Eliezer. They're on the way back. It says that Yitzchak Avinu goes out to pray mincha. Vayetze Yitzchak lasuach basadeh lifnot arev, says the Gemara Masechet Brachot. He went to pray mincha. From here we learn Yitzchak Avinu established the prayer of mincha. Okay, fine. He goes out to pray mincha. Eliezer is coming back with the camels and with Rivka on the camel. She looks at him, she sees him, and she falls off the camel. There goes you. Sorry. Okay. She falls off the camel. Sorry, I got it. Thank you. She falls off the camel. Thank you. Yeah, the Zoom fell off too. Okay, very good. Okay, so what happens afterwards? She picks herself up, right? Eliezer tells her, this is my master Yitzchak. But she lifts up her eyes, she sees him, but she falls off the camel. By the way, another word like that, I love pointing out words like this: gamal, camel, same thing. Okay, fine. You get it? Gamal, camel. Okay, fine. Vatomer el ha'eved. She says to the slave, Mi ha'ish halazeh, who's this man? Ha'olech basadeh likratenu, going in the field towards us. Vayomer ha'eved hu adoni vatikach hatzeif vatitkas. This is my master. She puts on the scarf and she covers herself up. And Yitzchak brings her home. Yitzchak brings her back to the tent of Sarah, his mother, who had passed away already. He takes Rivka, vatehilo leisha, she's now his wife. He loves her. And Yitzchak has now been comforted after the death of his mother. That's what it says. Now we know Rashi tells us it means that just like when Sarah was alive, there was a cloud over her tent and there was challah in the tent, always fresh. There was a candle that was lit. So too when Rivka got into the tent, so it came back to life. So it was like replacing, so to say, Sarah Imenu. But the question that I always had was, why did she fall off the camel? What did she see? Right? What was the story over there? Why did she, what would happen? So I saw a midrash. I'm going to read it to you inside. It's amazing. You'll tell me what you think about it. This is from the Yalkut Shimoni. It says the following: Keshera'ata Rivka et Yitzchak, when Rivka saw Yitzchak, Ra'ata beruach hakodesh she'atid latzet mimenu Esav harasha. She saw in Ruach HaKodesh that he's going to have a son, not only Yaakov, but he's also going to have Esav. Now, V'nizdazah, she was shaken by it, right? And because of that, nafla me'al hagamal, she fell off the camel. But it's not over there. This is where it takes a very interesting twist. Pay careful attention. V'na'asta mukat etz, and she became what's called mukat etz. Mukat etz is a sugya in Masechet Ketubot. Mukat etz is a discussion about a fellow that gets married and he finds that his wife is not a virgin. Okay? And he has a problem with this because in his opinion, right, he was marrying a virgin. There's a difference monetarily in the ketubah. A virgin's ketubah is 200 zuz. The ketubah of a non-virgin is 100 zuz. So if he divorces her, by the way, it's a difference of 6 months worth of payments, right? So if he divorces her, his payments have to be much more than they really should be, right? So she says, no, you made a mistake. I am a virgin, but I'm a mukat etz, which means I once was doing something and I hit a tree and it hit me in that spot of the body and the betulim, the virginity was lost, right? Okay, that's what she claims. In other words, in modern day terminology, she went horseback riding, she did, I don't know, other bicycle, whatever the situation may be, okay? So now it says that Rivka Imenu, by falling off of the camel, she became a mukat etz. Now look what happens now. This is wild. I'm telling you, this is midrash. This is the first time I've seen this midrash. And by the way, it answers another question. For the longest time, I've been bothered by this question. The halacha says, when you slaughter a bird or a kosher, non-domesticated animal, for example, a deer, right? So then you have a special mitzvah when you slaughter them to cover up the blood. You have to take dirt, you have to say a bracha, to cover up the blood with dirt, and you take the dirt and you throw it on top of the blood, right? That does not apply to behemoth, domesticated animals, right? Doesn't apply to cows, doesn't apply to sheep, goat, right? It does apply to turkeys, birds, any other kind of non-domesticated animal, like maybe a buffalo would be in that category. I forgot, right? Giraffe, perfect, right? It's a bird. A chicken is a bird, right? Very good. So I always wondered why. Why should there be a difference between the blood of the chicken, bird, or anything else, an animal? What's the difference? So look at this amazing midrash. So she started bleeding. She hit the ground. She became mukat etz. She started bleeding. Look what happens. Miyad ba'a chaya etzla betulim. So an animal came to the betulim to protect it. Shelo yelakekun haklavim ushar chayot hasadeh. So that other animals would not come to consume that blood. Yesh omrim shezeh haya aryeh. Some say it was a lion. Yesh omrim shebat tzvi v'kisa adam lishmor alav. Some say it was a deer that came to cover the blood, that it should be protected. Yesh omrim sheyona hita merachevt alev. Some say it was a pigeon that was flying over it. Amazing. Now, v'yesh omrim says what? No, that's not nida. That's not nida. Nida is from the uterus. This is not uterus. This is a different part. It's not from beyond the cervix, right? It's from the outer part, right? So, okay. So now, yesh omrim shebat she'amar kadosh baruch hu lemalach Gabriel sheyered v'yishmor et dam habetulim shelo yasriach. So some say Hashem sent the malach Gabriel to protect this blood. This is wild. Okay, look what happens. It says Yitzchak marries Rivka, and he finds no betulim. Okay, Yalkut Gershuni. Okay, this is the part of the parsha that you have to dig a little bit to find it. Okay, so it says Yitzchak says to Rivka, "Betulai chechanhen." What's the story? Why are you not a virgin? Right? So she says, I fell off the camel and I started bleeding. So maybe a miracle will happen. We'll find the betulim there. Now, it says, Halchu matzua betulim al even achat, v'gam matzua etz tzavua bedam, v'achaya rovetzet v'shomeret habetulim. So they saw there was a rock that had the blood, there was a tree that had the color of blood, and there was an animal walking around to protect the blood that no animal should eat it. Guys, I'm telling you, I didn't make this up. I'm telling you, I did not I'm reading it from the midrash. It's amazing. Okay, so it says amazing. This is the midrash. Yalkut Gershuni.
But how much dung?
One second. Ulefi, listen to this. This is the key line. Ulefi shebao achayot lishmor adam betulim, and since the chayot came to protect the betulim of Rivka imenu, lachen zachu achayot lekisui dam. That's why they were the ones that merited that when their blood is spilled, there's a mitzvah for us to cover their blood with dirt, and not behemot. Because the behemot were nowhere to be found in this scenario here. Very interesting.
Okay, how much blood does it come out over the rock, over the tree?
Apparently a lot. I don't know exactly how much, but apparently enough for that. Now, listen to this. Yitzchak Avinu's first assumption, listen to this. Yitzchak Avinu's first assumption was what? Who's the culprit? This son of a gun that took my bride from, Eliezer. It's him. I should have known. Never send a Knaani to get your bride from across the, It was him. Says the Midrash, look what happened to Eliezer. Midrash says Eliezer was a tzaddik. He didn't touch her. He was 100% righteous from beginning to end. Look at what he was rewarded with. It says, and because chashad Yitzchak et Eliezer, since Yitzchak suspected Eliezer of doing this to his bride, zacha Eliezer shenichnas chai legan Eden. Eliezer merited to walk into Gan Eden while alive. Only a few people merited for that. Eliyahu Hanavi merited that. Serach Bat Asher merited that, right? Who else? Eliezer. Amazing thing. Because he was falsely accused. Or not, he wasn't even accused, he was even suspected. I'm sorry, Sassan.
What happens to the body when someone goes through this? They walk straight to Gan Eden with their body. What happens with the body?
So it's a very interesting thing. There was another rabbi that did this in the Gemara, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, and he kind of tricked the Malach HaMavet and jumped in while he was still living. I can't tell you exactly what happens, but it seems like they're still able to come. They still never lost their status of a body. Very interesting thing. Now, this doesn't end. I mean, this chidush just keeps on going. So it says that Eliezer shows up and he says to Yitzchak, he says the whole story about what happened, how he went there and he got Rivka and he brought her back. They wanted to say no, and I got them to say yes, and the whole thing. So he said to Yitzchak, Et kol hadevarim asher asa. Listen to this line. This is amazing. From the Vilna Gaon. The Vilna Gaon now adds in, based on what we just said, listen to this. Et kol hadevarim asher asa. He tells Yitzchak everything that he did. Et kol hadevarim, all the things, asher that asa, that he did. The Vilna Gaon says each word of that line stands for another word. Et stands for al titma, which means don't be surprised or don't ask a question about. Kol, which stands for kilo, that there was not, right? Ha-devarim haya dam betulim. Don't ask the question, why was there no blood of virginity? Et kol ha-devarim stands for, don't ask, al titma kilo haya dam betulim. Don't ask why there was no blood of virginity. Okay? Because asher asa, because ra'ata yarda miyad, avda sham, because she saw, she bled, she got down from the camel, she saw right away. We lost the blood there, and then ra'a ufot shomrim adam, and then we saw birds watching over the blood. So each word of that line, says the Vilna Gaon, et kol hadevarim asher asa, stands for al titma kilo haya dam betulim. Don't wonder why there was no blood of virginity. Ra'ata, because she already saw it. Yarda miyad, she got off the camel. Avda sham, she lost it there. Ra'a ufot shomrim adam. We saw birds watching over the blood. Amazing. It's a chidush. I never saw this before. Okay. So again,
What happened?
What? To protect her from the chashash that maybe she had messed around beforehand. Now, Rashi tells us something very interesting. The Torah specifically talks about her in two ways. It says over here like this. It says she was a nara. She was a nara, right? She was a young lady, right? Right. Now, she was a young lady, but it says she was betula, ve'ish lo yeda'a. She was a virgin. Ve'ish, and the man did not know her. So, says Rashi, what is the idea over here? Why does it have to say that she's betula, she's a virgin, but no man knew her? Betula, Rashi says, mimakom betulim. She was a virgin from the usual place of activity. The ish lo yeda'a, and a man never knew her, shelo kedarka, which means that even from the not normal place of activity, right, from behind, nobody was with her. Why does the Torah have to specify that? Says Rashi, lefi shebnot hanochrim, because at the time, the ladies of the goyim, hayu meshamrot mekom betulehen, they would keep their normal spot reserved, umafkirot atzman mimakom acher, but they would be active from the other location. Okay, he'id al zu. So therefore, the Torah had to specify that this girl, Yivka, not only was inactive in the normal spot, but Shenekiya Mikol, she's even clean from the other spot too. Huh? I know, but the thing is that apparently even at the time, this was something that she would be suspected of. So Yitzchak Avinu is worried. What happened? What is this? This is the bride that they brought for me? Amazing thing. I'll end off, guys, with one more point before we have to stop. Just one last thing over here. You should know. Sorry, how you guys doing over there? Huh? Chidushim. These are chidushim. I'm gonna share with you one more that's really, I mean, the age is very hard to understand. I agree with you.
But you said it could
What?
be 13, 14, no?
What?
You said it could be 13.
That's what Tosfot says. It's 14. I'm gonna share with you one more point over here, gentlemen, that I saw that I think is just important, worthwhile talking about. It says in the Tzror Hamor, one of the early Mefarshim over here, that there's a very important reason that Sarah Imenu had to be out of the picture over here at this point. Because Yitzchak could not possibly have peace with Rivka, his wife, if Sarah was alive. It's a very interesting thing.
Mother-in-law.
Says Mr. Yoshua, mother-in-law. It's a very interesting thing. It's not my own words. It's the more of the yours is the best. It's the words of the Tzror Hamor. I'll tell you, I never thought I would see this written down, but it says over here clearly by the Tzror Hamor, ואם הייתה שרה בחיים, לא הייתה יכולה לראות כי יצחק בנה היחיד האהוב שכח את כל תגמוליה ואהבתה אליו ודבק ברבקה אשתו. If Sarah Imenu was alive, it would be impossible for her to see that her son Yitzchak, that she had at 90 years old and loved so much and took care of and did so much for him, has now betrayed her love and has gone after another woman, Rivka. לזה אמר הכתוב, כשראה יצחק שהייתה לו אישה ויאהביה אהבה גמורה. That's why it says that when he loved his wife Yitzchak, it was a total love. ובזה ניחם נחמה גדולה שמתה אמו שרה. And that's really, it's an amazing thing that it's saying that, Tzror Hamor is saying that that's why it says that she had to be out of the picture. Because he knew that this would be the case, if not so. It's so important, Rabotai, to have the proper attitude. B'ezras Hashem, we should all be blessed with sons-in-laws and daughters-in-law, B'ezras Hashem, and we should all be blessed with that. The proper attitude is to look at this person as another child. I'll tell you the truth. I once had this. I was in my hometown one day, and a non-Jewish woman who I knew since I'm a kid walks by my house, my parents' house. And I say to her, how are you doing? I haven't seen you in a long time. She says, oh, great. I have one problem. I said, what's your problem? She says, my son got married. I said, oh, your son got married? I know your son. Yeah, he got married to a very good girl. Excellent, beautiful. But I feel like I lost my son. That's what she told me. I feel like I lost my son. So, I said, oh, well, I'm sure it's not that bad, whatever. I'm thinking to myself, it's by us, exactly the opposite. It's not you lost your son. It's you gained a daughter, right? You got another daughter. That's the Torah attitude. But what we're learning now is that it's possible that if a person doesn't control themselves, doesn't look at things the right way, then you could be in the worst possible situation with your children. It could be the utmost damage. It could be very, very harmful. So that's what the Torah is telling us. I'll read you, there's a famous Maaseh. The Gemara in Masechet Shabbat tells over, when you learn Masechet Shabbat and you hit this Gemara, you go crazy. Everybody that I've ever learned this piece of Gemara with, they go nuts. The story says like this. There was a girl that got married to a guy, and the mother-in-law hated her guts. Absolutely hated her. She couldn't stand her. And the Gemara tells us, it's Masechet Shabbat of Chaf Vav Amud Aleph, you can look it up yourself. The Gemara says that, I guess the daughter-in-law didn't know this, but there was something back in the day, I don't know if we still have this around today, it's called balsam oil. Have you ever heard of balsam oil? Yeah. In the Gemara, it's called shemen afar simon. Yeah? Yeah, you familiar with this? Yeah? Mazi shemen afar simon. Apparently, it's got the most beautiful smell ever. There's a special bracha that you say on it. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu boreh shemen arev. Very interesting thing. It's hard. I mean, I've never really encountered it, but the Gemara talks about it like crazy. Anyway, the mother-in-law was trying to tell her daughter-in-law, listen, everybody loves shemen afar simon, balsam oil. Why don't you rub it on yourself? Get it all over you. So the daughter-in-law was saying, oh, very nice. Excellent. Little did she know that it's very flammable. All of a sudden, the mother lights a candle and poof, daughter-in-law erupts into flames. Maaseh Shaya, says the Gemara, Masechet Shabbat, Daf Chavav Amud Aleph, mother-in-law / murder-in-law. An amazing thing.
She died?
She died. She dropped dead. It's a scary thought. Person has to know that if they don't have the right attitude towards their son-in-law, daughter-in-law, it could be a disaster. So that says that Tzror Amor is actually one of the reasons behind the scene that Hashem arranged it that Sarah Imenu would be out of the picture at this point, which is, I mean, the thought. I mean, we're talking here about angels, Rabotai. When we mention Sarah Imenu, we think we're talking about a human being. It's like beyond an angel. She was in control of angels. It says by Paro's house, she was telling the malach, hit. I mean, we're talking about people that are, it's hard to even imagine who we're speaking about. Sarah Imenu. But it's telling us that, it doesn't matter who you are, there could still be an issue. If you're not in control of yourself, you're not on top of yourself, there could still be an issue. So it's important for all of us to be aware of that and to be very cognizant about that fact. We'll stop over here, guys. Chazakim Buchim, Tiskule Mitzvot, and of course, finish up over here. Thanks, guys, on Zoom. Tiskule Mitzvot. Thank you for joining us.